Hello, good evening, good morning, whatever time of day it is you find this. Uh-oh, I am hearing myself talk, so let me kill that. I didn't even realize I was doubling up here. Once again, super well prepared, uh, perfectly organized, and set up very professionally here. Okay, there we go. Okay, so on that note, attention turned back to what I should be looking at and talking to the camera and whoever may happen to be out there. So it is just a few days before Halloween 2022, and I am continuing my effort to do a little transmission every Halloween night. And tonight I was going to talk a little bit about creatures called shadow people, or legendary creatures called cryptids, whatever you want to call them, called shadow people. Mostly because today's film over at Terror Titans is titled, I believe, I Saw That, or I See That, I See You. Let me just check because I can't believe I forgot. I Saw It. Yeah. Today's film over there, excuse me a second. Today's film over there at Terror Titans is I Saw It, and it's about a lady who either her just a trick of the light in her apartment, or there's actually some shadowy creature that's in there menacing her. Watch the film, a couple minutes, and I think you'll find it well worth your time. In fact, down below this video, there's a link to Terror Titans where just all of the various Shadow People films have been easily available for you to go watch, and they're all just a few minutes long. There's the one from today, I Saw It. There is a couple starring, or at least one. I think there's actually a couple starring Lotta Lawson. Let's see if I'm right. Basically, the world's unluckiest woman. She was in a series of short films by David Sandberg a few years back, and in every one of them, it sort of ends badly for her. Valeska Miller shows up. Valeska Miller shows up in one. Another fine actress who she'll have more of a career than she does, actually, as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, there's a couple of films with Lotta Lustin running foul shadow people. And actually, each of those has a slightly different take on what shadow people are, which sort of reflects the mix of folklore and fiction that has been featuring shadow people. Um, I, I think the first two instances of them being of shadow people being big in pop culture was there was a Twilight Zone episode. I think it was Twilight Zone, maybe it was Outer Limits, but I'm pretty sure it was Twilight Zone, where one of the shadow people lived underneath this kid's bed. And while in folklore, they had always been sort of menacing creatures. If I remember the episode right, in that particular Twilight Zone episode, the shadow being, shadow person, monster under the bed would defend the person whose bed it lived under, and would attack or outright kill anyone that menaced that person because it's protecting its home. So the monster under the bed is not something to be afraid if it's of if it's your bed, was basically a lesson of that particular episode. If I'm remembering it correctly. And then there was in the early 2000s, must have been Art Bell, since he was the only guy with wacky conspiracy radio shows that I was even aware existed back then. He did a show with a show about shadow people. I think it was the early 2000s. It must have been, because there was a website where after he'd encouraged people to send in pictures of drawings of shadow people that they had seen, it got posted to the Coast AM website. And I think his guest that he was talking to about shadow people was some sort of Native American shaman or something, or maybe just some general cryptid expert. But for some reason, I want to associate this guy with shadow people, and they were sort of pulled them into Native American lore in the conversation. I could be conflating things. It was 20, 25 years ago. I would be listening to Coast to Coast middle of the night while either writing or just being up and doing work stuff. But so yes, shadow people, they, again, in pop culture, they're either malevolent creatures that live in shadows and are mysterious beings that are whose motives and goals are unclear, but always evil and always destructive toward the living human beings that they come across. Yeah, except in that one Twilight Zone episode where he'll protect the bed and the person in it, but that's about as far as it goes. So yes, most typical, they are some kind of evil creatures that live in shadows or are made of shadows. Other versions of shadow people have them as ghosts. They're basically restless spirits that either are trying to reclaim some solid form or just, again, kill the living because, well, they're jealous and they're now evil shadow people. There's also some versions of them where they're, again, that goes back to here, the shadow creature under the bed, where they're not totally evil. They will protect a place or a person. So if you are perceived by the shadow person as menacing what they want to protect, yeah, then you're in big trouble. Darkness will claim you. The shadows will claim you. And in that sense, they can also, in some stories and some tales, they are viewed as kind of sort of guardian angels because they will protect certain people or certain places or certain families. Again, in that sense, they are spirits, they're ghosts. There's also a theory that they are time travelers. The shadow, what looks to us as shadow people, are folks projecting themselves back through time, and they are insubstantial in our dimension as they are observing us. And in those sorts of stories, I would assume that the sort of evil, destructive nature of the shadow being, shadow person, is probably a side effect of the disruption of the time streams, temporal flow, however you want to look at it. Or they are coming back in time to fix history or repair history. And what we perceive as evil and destructive is really something that's very beneficial for whatever far future they come from. It's one of my favorite Bradbury stories, A Sound of Distant Thunder, I think was the title of it, where there's a company doing time travel safaris. But everybody that goes on these time travel safaris to go and kill a particular dinosaur has been very carefully researched that, this dinosaur is going to die at this point in time anyway, so we can go back, shoot it with a big giant elephant gun. You'll get your trophy. We won't affect history, but stay on this path that we've made. If you stray from this path, you may screw up history because whatever little change you make will have a ripple effect, and there's nothing that can be done to stop it. And it will be horrendous. Or nobody can predict what will happen. So stay on the path. Well, in the story, of course, a guy does not stay on the path, and he steps on a uh, you know uh, Pleistocene era or wherever dinosaurs lived. It's been such a long time, I forget, but I never said I was very smart. But stepped on a butterfly and by stepping off the path, and when they all get back to the present day, everything's changed. And yeah, the story has a pretty dark ending to it. Um, One of my favorite stories among the many great stories that Ray Bradbury wrote is A Sound of Distant Thunder. So, yes, the shadow people coming back from the future, they're time traveling. They probably understand how to manipulate the time stream, how to change the time stream. And so, what we perceive as some horrendously evil thing they're doing, they could be creating some perfect future utopia, or shadow person A is trying to change the history to create his utopia, while shadow person B is coming back to um, counteract that or stop that. And so these, so the evil and the chaos that some people attribute to the shadow people is shadow people dueling time travel. Um, that's good, as good an idea as any, I suppose. And then, of course, there's also a theory, and this now we're kind of getting off into ideas that I think could be just interesting kind of mashups of creatures in role playing games, for example. Um, the shadow people actually are related to, yes, Angela is in the side chat, and Angela says shadow people. Yes, yes, exactly. um, but the shadow people, that's actually your beginning of a doppelganger. The insubstantial, kind of smoky, hazy, exists just in the shadows and just in the corner of your eye. That would be the doppelganger that's looking for a shape, looking for a form. And once the shadow person starts following you around, you start catching sight of it in your house, you start seeing it here and there and everywhere. It is getting ready to assume your form and then ultimately assume your life. So the shadow person is a first step in the formation of a doppelganger. And as I'm talking about this, I'm actually realizing that there is again, on Terra Titans, there's actually a film that would be a sort of perfect sort of tie in with this. I mean, if you go, you watch tonight's film, which is, as I said, I see that. I see it. I see it. Let's see. I saw it. I guess tense is important. I saw it. And there was one earlier this year that I featured, basically, where a lady's reflection comes out of a mirror and she has to fight her own reflection for survival. So, could be a cursed mirror, could be a doppelganger that's taken, a shadow person that has now reached its doppelganger stage and is now trying to take over this woman. Actually, that's not a good example because that creature in that one is very much some sort of mirror image come to life. So scratch that idea. But anyhow, that's my little shadow person theory that it's a proto doppelganger. And I think I already mentioned the also very popular one that they are just. No, I didn't. Another one is that they're just plain old demonic spirits. They're disembodied spirits, uh, demons floating around, looking for people to possess. Uh, so again, if you're going to be using them in a traditional kind of role playing game environment, or traditional or modern, then the shadow person that you're seeing lurking around is the demon on his side of the dimensional barrier trying to get through. So that's a sign where you got to get the priest in there and shore up reality, or the demonic hordes will be breaking through. Um, or if you go with the more kind of biblical idea that again, the demons are the demonic spirits floating around. Boy, doesn't Angela in the side chat says, boy, doesn't that put Peter Pan in a whole new light. Yeah. Yeah, actually, there's a lot of those stories that you can put a real dark spin on relatively easily. And Peter Pan is definitely one of them. There's multiple angles you can run at that on. You can take a run at that and pretty much turn that around and turn it from an adventure story with a few kind of scary parts to a kind of a straight up horror tale. I mean, heck, even the mermaids living in the water in Peter Pan can be damn scary if approached correctly. Yes, you're absolutely right. Gosh, trying to think. Well, let me look at my little notes that I took. Jotted down some notes. Once in a while, I try to be a little prepared. Let's see if the notes have anything that I haven't talked about yet in them. Because other than that, I'm pretty much run to the end of my rope. Unless Angela wants to throw out a couple of sentences about what would be the best way to turn Peter Pan around using the whole shadow person idea. Some sketched out game rules. Well, yeah, shadow creatures can be dimensional from some other dimension that's just not ours. Just generic. Ghosts hoping to contact the living, time travelers. Yeah, I pretty much. Well, and just all theories about ghosts can also be incorporated into the shadow creature. That shadow people are just echoes of strong emotional events that somehow have been imprinted upon a place, or they're basically harmless, but they freak you out when you see them. But yeah, they will never really interact with you because you see them, but they don't see you because they're not really there. They were there 20 years ago, 200 years ago, 2,000 years ago, having some sort of experience that imprinted itself upon the ether or the psychic vibrations of some place. And so, yeah, they're just basically like, when somebody finds this recording of me talking, I'm not really here anymore. But I'm still, to them, still moving around, still talking, still commenting on what Angela is saying in the side chat, even though Angela is also long gone. Well, I'll probably still be around to respond to comments made down below, but who knows? Or maybe I'll be a shadow person. I'll be a ghost in the machine, and like the jokes we're making about spirits trying to infiltrate these little broadcasts because of the weird light changes and pixelations and such that have been going on. But I am out of things to say about shadow people. Yep, no more clever ideas tonight, says Angela. And yep, I'm kind of in the same boat. I hopefully someone found something interesting here that can either, just that was okay for just waste a few minutes on, or maybe some ideas for your role-playing game or your story, whatever you might be working on. And if you did like it, please, click the little thumbs up sign that's down below. I have to say that. Every YouTube broadcaster person has to say that. Click the like button, subscribe. Actually, right now, I noticed as I was coming on that I'm back to 60 subscribers. I was at 60 early in the week, and then I went back down to 57 or something, 56, and now I'm back up to 60. So thank you for subscribing. Maybe when I get to 75, I'll do something special, maybe more special than just getting another couple of hats. And but yeah, who knows? Anyhow, that's it for me tonight, or it for me this morning if you're finding this later. Thank you, Angela, for stopping by. I appreciate it. It's always a little easier to have someone to bounce a little bit off. And I am going to, because I still only know how to do this, signing off using 2 buttons. There's got to be an easier way, but here goes button number 1, button number 2, and we are clear.